Hello there! My name is Nate, and welcome back to another exciting video. This time, we're back at Clark International Airport in Pampanga, Philippines for a very special experience, which will be a bit different in style and format compared to some of my other recent videos. Behind me is Clark's historic air traffic control tower, and fortunately, I've been given permission to take you inside for an exclusive rare tour of this intriguing airport facility. Additionally, I'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at the fascinating job of an air traffic controller. I'm a massive aviation enthusiast, so for me, this is kind of a dream come true, and I'm so glad I get to share this adventure with all of you. All right, let's jump right in and check it out. Before we step inside, I want to introduce you to the gentleman who kindly and graciously made our tour today possible. This is Dennis, and he is chief of the tower here at Clark International Airport. Dennis, thank you so much for inviting me and the viewing audience here to the tower for this remarkable experience.
You're welcome, Nate, and I would also like to welcome all your viewers from all around the world to Clark Control Tower.
Thank you, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And can you tell me how long you've worked at the airport?
I've been working at Clark International Airport for 25 years.
Wow. So in those 25 years, I'm sure you've been up and down this tower countless times.
Yes, and I think it was good for the heart.
I imagine it was. And when it comes to this tower, I understand there's quite a bit of history to it. It dates all the way back to the 1960s.
Yes. It's still the original tower that the U.S. Air Force used way back during the Vietnam War.
And for those of you interested in the incredible history of Clark Air Base, which was once the largest United States military base overseas, you can watch my comprehensive Clark documentary by clicking here or the first link down in the description below. Dennis, thank you so much for your time as well as this exclusive access. It's definitely a huge treat for me and hopefully for all of you as well. So, what do you say? Let's get started.
Well, security has cleared you, so let's go.
Yay! Ooh, neat. Well, I see we have a working elevator here, but I think to get the full tower ascension experience, I'll take the stairs. It's only a few flights of stairs anyway, right?
The tower cab is in the 11th floor, so good luck.
How hard can that be? What do you say I meet you up there?
Enjoy your workout.
Thanks.
He's sure gonna work up a sweat.
No exaggeration. This is turning into an intense workout, especially considering the heat that builds up within these thick walls. Oh, and walking up in jeans doesn't make it any easier. How silly of me. Oh boy. Well, now might be a good time to explain that this ATC tower, which again was built in the 1960s to serve as the United States Air Force's primary tower at Clark Air Base, is 30 meters or 98 feet high. And boy, am I feeling it. It feels like it's 1,000 feet high. The older, shorter tower that this replaced is a short walk away over at the fire station, and you can actually see it right through this window. Much of the core design, original layout, and materials are intact. And look at this. We have reached the level where the top portion of the elevator is located. I'm sure Dennis has already beat me up and he's up there waiting for me. But in the aviation world, this is quite rare. Most air traffic control towers get repurposed, heavily remodeled, replaced, or even demolished before reaching this age. Oh, check out these lockers. Looks like they've been here since the very beginning. And they are still being used by the staff here in the tower. Cool. Okay, I think it's time to admit that I might be a little bit out of shape, but the good news is we are at the finale of steps. Yay. And of course, Dennis is up here at the top waiting for me. How did you beat me, Dennis?
I took the elevator.
Of course. Yes, the handy dandy elevator.
Oh, you made it.
Oh, I made it. Thank goodness. But you know what? That hike was totally worth it because check out the view.
Yeah.
We're in the top portion of the tower called the control cab. This is the room from which almost all of the action out there across the airport is carefully and efficiently managed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Looking around this space, you can see loads of panels, monitors, telephones, radios, and interactive displays. It's a cozy space that can accommodate 5 or more controllers during the busiest travel periods or military training exercises. Speaking of which, it's important to mention that the airport here at Clark serves several key purposes: a growing commercial aviation hub, cargo operations, civil aviation and pilot training, and military operations, since a portion of Clark is still an active military base operated by the Philippine Air Force. Right here in the tower, we have a very special guest today who is here from the US.
My name's Villachak Ladara. I'm a contractor for Pacific Air Forces. Here is a liaison controller, air traffic controller, to support the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines during the Pacific Airlift Rally 2023 exercise. It's an airlift exercise consisting of countries from the US, Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, and Malaysia. The military exercises are just mostly designed for bilateral training. It's just so we can show some interoperability between the US forces and the other Asian nations on how we can just fly and operate in this theater.
For trick 502, we can accept the intersection departure from Box 5.
Fox 5 intersection departure, advice ready. Enter runway, QNH 1007.
1007, and we are cleared to enter runway 2, truck 502.
Day and night, the air traffic controllers in this tower handle it all, ensuring safe and smooth movement of aircraft, vehicles, and personnel on the runway, taxiways, and most aprons. Clark's tower technically covers traffic into and out of 2 runways: the primary runway dating back to the early days of the base, and a much shorter runway further to the east, used by Omni Aviation, which is one of the largest aviation training academies here in Clark. There is a lot to talk about in this tower, so throughout this tour, Dennis and members of his team will step in to provide further explanations of the work they carry out and the fascinating equipment they utilize in the process. Let's start with positions. Facing the airfield at the forward center position is the Alpha Aerodrome Controller, who is primarily responsible for verbally clearing aircraft for takeoff and landing, while also ensuring safe and efficient spacing between aircraft.
And follow me, waiting at the gate to go 5.
So our air boss is the aerodrome or the Alpha controller who just had one landing, and he has another one being guided by Clark approach to the final approach of runway 02.
The next position on the left is Clark Ground, which handles the movement of aircraft, vehicles, and personnel on airport taxiways and aprons. When there is less traffic, the Alpha controller can also cover the duties of Clark Ground. The position over here on the right of the Alpha controller covers clearance delivery and flight data. This includes processing flight plans, issuing clearances to aircraft before they start their engines for departure, providing pilots with weather information and relevant airport conditions, and logging aircraft departures and arrivals on paper and online.
Now, since that plane departs, I have to send a departure message to its destination. This is what I'm doing in this computer. So that the airport, its destination airport, will know that it already departed here in Clark and en route to them.
Finally, here in the middle of the cab is the chair and desk for the supervisor, who is responsible for overseeing all operations within the tower. Air traffic controllers here at Clark International Airport typically work 8-hour shifts, including a 2-hour break to manage fatigue. The Alpha controller can only work in the lead position for 2 hours at any given time, due to the demanding, focused, and fast-paced nature of the role. Air traffic controllers also manage fatigue and workload by rotating positions, meaning that each employee is trained and capable of carrying out all the duties within the tower. In other words, being an air traffic controller is a dynamic, extensive, and often high-intensity job.
Well, for me, being an air traffic controller, well, it gives satisfaction every time you have a successful landing and takeoffs. And the most rewarding part is our job is not repetitive. Meaning that every day it's a different scenario. Every shift it's a different scenario. So it's not a routinary job, and it's very challenging for us every day, every shift.
What really impresses me is that no matter how much I talk to the camera or other controllers, they all remain highly tuned in to their responsibilities, so that in a split second, they are able to tune out any distractions to pass on information and instructions to aircraft. They make the job look effortless, which demonstrates how well-trained and skilled they are under pressure. Now, let's discuss the flow of work and communication within the tower for one flight. I'll simplify this as much as possible to make it fast and easy to understand the basics. Let's say I've got an aircraft here in Clark and I want to fly it south to Cebu. Before my trip, I'll have to send air traffic control a flight plan, which can be done via fax or email. ATC will then request clearance for the flight from Manila Area Control Center. If the flight plan is approved, I'll prepare my aircraft and request for engine startup approval from ATC. I'll then request clearance to taxi out to the runway, as well as receive additional instructions for departure. Once my aircraft is moving, Clark Ground will guide me to the runway. Next, the Alpha controller will give me clearance to take off. Within the first minute after takeoff, I'll be handed over to another set of air traffic controllers called Clark Departure, which is a team now based in Manila. Both Clark Departure and Clark Approach are responsible for safely sequencing and guiding aircraft into and out of the immediate vicinity of Clark International Airport.
Track 502 clearance and request, standby. This is the Track 502 flight plan, and now I'm calling the Air Control Center to get her clearance. She's going to Cadena.
Felix, come to 81
Request
landed.
clearance, Track 502 destination, level 310. Track 502 clear Cadena by Cabanatuan November 8.
If unable, Foxtrot 1.
Route 130 until further advice.
Catwalk 1 will make left on Foxtrot 2.
Track 502 clearance ready.
Can do 81 left Foxtrot, left Echo.
Track
Right,
502
Echo to left
cleared
and go.
Cadena via vectors Charlie Alpha Bravo, November 884 flight plan route. Climb and maintain 130 until further advice, squawk 3424.
Right Echo 2.
If I already gave the clearance to the departing aircraft, it will be highlighted like this one. So if Track 502 will taxi to heading point runway 02, we'll just put this
Advisor board silk on.
into this section, means the aircraft is taxiing.
Clark's local airspace, which is technically called the ATC Aerodrome Traffic Zone, stretches outward 5 nautical miles from the center of the airport and up to, but not including, 2,000 feet from the surface. This is the airspace the tower manages, primarily by communicating over the radio and visually observing aircraft movement out of the windows. Radar is, of course, available, but surprisingly, it's mostly used as a secondary reference. Clark Departures and Clark Approach are the primary users of the radar. Speaking of technology, we'll now take a look at the wide variety of equipment here in the cab. I want to start here at this old panel, which as far as I know goes back about 25 years. It's no longer operational, but the airport lights used to be controlled from this massive console. You can see this diagram of the airfield as it was in the late 1990s. Something that makes my day is seeing that some of the buttons still light up when you press them. How cool is that? I'm so glad this classic aviation piece is still here, and there are a few others scattered around too. The extensive airport lighting system is now controlled using these touchscreens in the back. In seconds, air traffic controllers can turn on or off the iconic rotating beacon at the top of the tower, taxiway lights, runway lights, floodlights, and landing guidance lights. The intensity of almost all of these lights can also be adjusted to account for changes in visibility. Over here, there's a smaller touchscreen for communications. Various radio frequencies and phone communications can be punched in from a prearranged menu for two-way verbal transmissions. Clear and timely communication is paramount in air traffic control, and that is made clear by the sheer number of radios, backup radios, telephones, backup telephones, and in some cases, backups for the backups. There are hotlines to Clark Ground and Clark Approach, Clark Air Base, Airport Management Offices, Clark Airport's Fire Department, and other emergency services.
Sir, we have here our first backup radio. I said first because we have two. This one is the blue one.
Backup to the backup.
Yeah, backup to the backup. This one we have select this part where we can select the frequencies. For example, we lost 1187, so we just tune into 1187.
When radio communications fail, perhaps due to an aircraft's radio not working properly, air traffic controllers can use this light gun to give crucial and immediate instructions to pilots.
We have this one for the purpose of giving them instruction to proceed. For example, if we like to give them clearance to land or to proceed to other alternate or whatsoever, we use this light gun whenever we have lost communication. So we have the green, the red, and the amber or white.
At the front, you have a screen showing a near real-time radar screen of aircraft moving through or around Clark's airspace. The information is gathered using satellites and radar as a secondary source. ATC controllers can select aircraft on the display to get registration, aircraft type, speed, and altitude information, among others. Tucked in here behind the radar screen or the air situation display is the Automated Terminal Information Service. The screen displays the weather and airport information that is repeatedly broadcast on a dedicated frequency. This service allows pilots to plan and prepare for their departures or arrivals. It's manually updated every hour here in the tower, and then automatically relayed over the radio. The screens just to the left show weather information, specifically temperature, dew point, atmospheric pressure, visibility, cloud conditions, wind speed, and wind direction. All these measurements are gathered in real time by instruments around the airfield. The pressure reading is used by pilots to accurately set the altimeter in the cockpit, which is a critical instrument that shows how high the aircraft is, measured from mean sea level. Wind conditions determine which runway will be used, in Clark's case runway 20 or runway 02, and the approach and departure direction can change multiple times throughout the day. For optimal and safe flight, the goal is to ensure aircraft take off and land into the wind as much as possible. Therefore, if the wind is blowing from the south here in Clark, you can assume that runway 20 will be used until the wind direction changes. Weather obviously plays a big role at any airport. Here in the Philippines, cloud cover and storms become quite normal during the monsoon season, which roughly occurs from June to October. Additionally, the country is hit by multiple typhoons each year. In short, airport operations often continue despite wind and rain, as long as certain visibility requirements are met. Depending on weather conditions, the airport can switch between VFR and IFR operations. VFR, or Visual Flight Rules, means pilots can fly by looking outside the aircraft and using visual indicators to maintain safe flight, such as landmarks, ground topography, and other aircraft. Normally, VFR flights are only possible in good weather with good visibility. IFR, or Instrument Flight Rules, means pilots must use instruments in the cockpit to safely fly the aircraft. IFR flights are necessary when flying at night and in low visibility situations, such as fog or clouds. Therefore, if a storm rolls in over the airfield and IFR-only operations go into effect, all pilots flying into or out of Clark's Airport must be instrument rated, meaning that most students conducting training flights won't be able to fly until weather and visibility improve.
We cannot predict the weather. So
Right.
if you can see, in our east, there's weather. In our northwest, it's fine. We might suspend the VFR operations. We will just observe the weather first, if it will continue to be like that when...
I mean, that's truly amazing. You've got rain
Yeah.
coming over just one side.
Yes, and it's sunny on the other part.
Getting back to the technology in the cab, I'll briefly mention this section here, which has several screens for reviewing and processing flight plans, recording aircraft departures and arrivals, and monitoring electronic communications pertaining to air traffic control. Basically, all this ensures that airline dispatchers, national aviation regulators, air traffic service, and pilots remain on the same page with requests, intentions, and approvals. All right, I know we've covered a ton, and it might be feeling like aviation information overload at this point, but hopefully it's making the complex nature of airport operations, specifically pertaining to air traffic control here in the tower, more understandable and interesting. Furthermore, I think that by getting this unique behind-the-scenes look at what goes on up here, we can better appreciate what these awesome people do to ensure countless safe flights. Right now, I want to take you over here for a little surprise. Oh my. The best view of the airport by far. We are just outside of the cab, it's right here, and this is the catwalk that surrounds it. The views, I know I've mentioned it several times, but they are magnificent. I mean, you can walk all the way around and get tremendous views of the various aprons, the taxiways, and the runway just off to the east. Over here, on the west side, you can see the Zambales Mountains and the rest of Clark. And as we step over here, you can see on the north-facing side of the tower, you've got the old terminal, the new terminal, the old air traffic control tower, which this tower replaced, and the replacement for this tower, which is currently under construction, just over here. If we keep walking, you can see Mount Arayat off in the east, and a number of aircraft that are parked around the airfield. And then as we come to the east-facing side of the tower, you get this wonderful view of this part of the apron that is just in front of the tower. And this is very historic because you can see photos decades ago of many military aircraft that were involved in various operations when this was a United States Air Force base, Clark Air Base. So you can see how the purpose of this airport has dramatically evolved ever since that time period. Right now, you can see executive jets, cargo aircraft, military aircraft that are still being used by the Philippine Air Force, and you have the SIA engineering facility where they have maintenance hangars, and that company is originally from Singapore, but they work on a number of aircraft in these large hangars just off to my right. So I could stay up here for hours, I'm telling you. This would be the perfect spot to set up a camera and just take a number of pictures, number of videos, and really just soak it all in. This is truly impressive. Okay, here we are on the floor just beneath the cab, and there is this small area for food storage and preparation. It has a microwave, fridge, air fryer, and oven toaster. A mini kitchen of sorts. Immediately to the right is the one and only restroom in the tower. On the other end of this floor, there is a room with servers and electrical equipment that support the operations above. This is the second viewing platform located a few floors beneath the one we were just on. And it too has a platform that wraps all the way around the tower and offers fabulous views of the entire airfield. You know, I was just thinking, what if when this tower closes down and is replaced by the new tower, what if this became a fine dining restaurant with, let's say, a 5-course meal in the cab, and then viewing platforms like this open to the public? I mean, we can wish, right? I think Dennis has a few more rooms to show us on the lower floors, so let's go take a look.
Now we're going to the second floor. This used to be a conference room, which was also used as a training room and a briefing room. We have a chalkboard here, which I believe is a holdover from the U.S. Air Force times. This is where we write our comments or wherever we're speaking or we're having a meeting about. Okay, now we're going to the first floor. This is my office. This is the office of the Chief Controller.
I think it's been the Chief Controller's office ever since the tower was constructed.
Yes, it is.
Finished.
These are trophies. These are the trophies that were won by the Clark team in different basketball competitions. We've been recognized by the Philippine Air Force or appreciated also by different U.S. military units. This is a plaque from the 353rd Special Operations Group, and this one is from the Grain Knights, the Patron 46. This one is a certificate of appreciation from the 13th Air Expeditionary Group during the exercise Balikatan 2015. This knife, a fan knife, was given by the Philippine Air Force. It's called the Balisong. It's manufactured in Taal, Batangas, and Barrio Balisong, where it got the name from the name of that knife, or the knife got its name from the name of the barrio. I don't know which is which.
Dennis, I love these old charts here.
This
Really
chart
cool.
covers the airspace that is controlled by the Philippines, specifically the Manila Area Control Center and the Mactan Area Control Center.
And then what are the boundaries there? I see different boundaries kind of off on the side.
Starting from the top, we have here, this belongs to Japan. This is Taiwan. This is the border of Hong Kong airspace. We have Vietnam over here, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and on the east, the United States. This is the old airport layout.
Going how far back?
1995, just 1995, when we didn't have the terminal and we were using one taxiway as another runway.
A few years after the Pinatubo eruption.
When we started, and we used to have two parallel runways, but didn't conform to ICAO standards, so we stopped using what we call the secondary runway and converted it into a taxiway.
Dennis, you've got to tell me about this picture here.
Yes, it's a picture of 100 flying machines over Clark during the 8th Philippine International Hot Air Balloon Fiesta on February 8, 2003. Of course, those 100 flying machines included the remote control planes and even the balloons and some ultralights, aside from the real planes that you have at the background.
That was such an amazing experience, and I hope you enjoyed the tour of Clark's Air Traffic Control Tower as much as I did. Be sure to share your favorite moments and thoughts down in the comment section below. Once more, I'd like to thank Dennis and his team for being so accommodating, helpful, and generous with their time. Wherever your future global adventures lead, I wish you and your loved ones many happy trails ahead. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.